Getting started with our first Spider-Man video game is the tie-in to the first Spider-Man film. One would think that being a movie-based game, the first Spider-Man video game would have no chance at being good, let alone halfway decent. However, Spider-Man is a pretty decent movie tie-in that shows that developer Treyarch did put some effort into making this game more than just a simple cash-in. The game follows the plot of the film with some slight additions to bulk out the narrative. The story has Spidey facing Vulture, Shocker, Scorpion, and in the Xbox version, Kraven the Hunter, all in addition to the film's antagonist, the Green Goblin. The good thing about the extra villains is that their storylines fit in pretty naturally within the plot of the film. Some of the plot points from the film are changed, but it's nothing too drastic. The side plots are interesting to follow for the most part, though the arc regarding Scorpion is kinda left unresolved. The game is broken up into chapters which have Spider-Man traversing the New York skyline or exploring various interiors like a warehouse, Grand Central Station, and even Oscorp. The general goal of each level is for Spider-Man to beat up all the bad guys or the boss of the level. There are also some exterior levels that have you chasing down the Vulture and Green Goblin and fixing various objects in the environment before they break. Naturally, you have all of Spider-Man's abilities at your disposal. You can web swing, stick to walls, web up enemies, in addition to the standard kicks and punches. Combat can seem a bit repetitive at first, although you can find combo markers in each level that teach you new combos. This at least gives you one new combo to play around with in each level. The one thing combat is missing is the ability to block or dodge. Without this ability, combat has you hitting your enemy a few times while taking a few hits yourself, before you eventually have to run around for a health item and then return to combat. You can also web zip around for quick movement, though it can be a bit of a hassle to get it to work properly. The general controls work well enough, though sometimes moving around can be a bit of an issue. You'll try to turn around only to find that Spider-Man is continuing in the opposite direction. Also, on a side note, the game doesn't offer any tutorials explaining how to control Spider-Man during the main campaign. When you start a new game, you have to choose to play through the tutorial, which is optional. It's actually a shame because not only does the tutorial explain the basic controls, but the tutorial is narrated by Bruce Campbell, who brings his usual wit and humor to make the tutorial far more entertaining than it has any right to be.
Your compass will point straight towards your next objective. Up on the compass means forward to you. You follow me? Well, stop following me or I'll have you arrested. If you want to throw some more goons around, knock on the door by facing it and pressing the punch button. I'm gonna grab a ham sandwich. Whenever you're done beating bad guys up, follow your compass and height meter. That was a good sandwich. Oh.
The game also tries to implement a stealth mechanic which involves Spider-Man hiding in the shadows to avoid enemy contact. Though there are a few moments in the game in which to use stealth, the only level that truly promotes the stealth mechanics is when Spider-Man breaks into Oscorp. It's kind of a shame that there aren't more options for players to use stealth to get around enemies. There are moments when the game will tell you that your stealth attempt has failed, but you'll be at a loss to figure out how you could have succeeded. If the game had some way of taking out enemies with stealth, perhaps these segments would have been more enjoyable. The game also has a bunch of bonus features that promote some slight replay value. There are various costumes, such as Peter Parker and the wrestling costume from the film. The game even has the option to play as Green Goblin with Harry Osborn in the suit. You get to play through the same levels as Spider-Man, though it is fun to play around with some of the Goblin abilities like the pumpkin bombs and the glider. The presentation is pretty good for an early Xbox, PS2, and GameCube title, and Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe both provided the voices for their respected characters. There are several FMVs throughout the game, and while they looked pretty great when the game first released, it's clear that they haven't aged all that well in the 12 years since. The soundtrack is also pretty good at creating a nice mood based on certain situations in each level. Whether you're web swinging, sneaking around on the ceiling, or battling various villains, the music fits each situation perfectly, creating the right mood and atmosphere. Overall, Spider-Man is one of those rare exceptions that proves that not every game based on a movie is complete garbage. Sure, it might not be perfect and the overall campaign can be completed in a few hours, but the levels are fun enough and the bonus content is enough to keep players engaged. So join us next time as the Spider-Man review series continues as we look at Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, that's my life. Complicated. Looks like you're done now. Go outside and play.